Okay. Hey, I just want to kick things off. Council holds work sessions on Mondays and Wednesdays several times a month to exchange information with community stakeholders, to gather input from staff, advisory boards, and residents. We don't take votes or formal actions at work sessions. Tonight's work session is indeed open to the public, as are all council meetings. And the only exception is our executive sessions, which are authorized by state law. Our residents and others can observe our deliberations, and we'll pause periodically tonight to provide opportunities for the public to comment. If you wish to speak during those times, just raise your hand if you're in the room, and after being recognized, you can go over to the microphone, and you'll need to state your name and give us an address. We need that for the record. If you are tuned in and on your PC or your Mac, you can use the Q and Zoom. You can use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen to submit a written question, or you can raise your virtual hand. And once again, after being recognized, we'll promote you. We don't accept anonymous comments on Zoom or at the meetings. And of course, if you're watching remotely or watching the live stream on YouTube or Facebook, just send us an email. That's probably the best way. Send an email to questions@greenbeltmd.gov. Please limit your remarks to 3 minutes and address only the topic under consideration. We ask, as always, that you remain civil and avoid disparaging others, questioning their motives. So that's the opening statement. I just want to say that tonight we're going to dive into the cornerstone of our municipal services, public safety. In the proposed FY 2027 budget, public safety remains our largest fiscal commitment, and $14,363,507. That's a mouthful. That's in the general fund. That represents about 34.41% of our total expenditures and reflects an increase of approximately $1.2 million over the 2026 adopted budget. But, it's all about people, as is the case with our budget overall. And the greatest asset in public safety is personnel. So we're thankful we've had a successful recruitment period and dedicated recruitment officer with the police department. And I believe we're at full staffing capacity right now, which is phenomenal. That includes the sworn officers, dispatchers, and animal control. So, to keep this, we have to, and we are prioritizing retention, keeping the public safety personnel that we have. And part of that has to do with the collective bargaining agreement. Some of the commitments are a 2% cost of living allowance and a 3% merit increase for eligible staff. There's some other changes. We'll get into that a little bit. But right now, I'd like to acknowledge our city manager, Josue Salmerón. Mr. Salmerón, how are you tonight?
I'm doing well. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Good evening, residents. Welcome to the Police Department and Chief Ray from the Volunteer Fire Station 35.
And we're actually broadcasting from the Springfield Lake Recreation Game Room. And, it's nice to be here. Hopefully, it's a game room, so you may hear some foosball going on in the background, maybe a little bit of basketball. But, we do try and move around our sessions from time to time. And with the newer technology that we've been able to implement over the past year, perhaps we'll be able to get back to doing that on a regular basis. As Ms. Pope knows, we did this on a regular basis. That was about 7 years ago. We actually held 4 or 5 of the work sessions here. We moved around quite a bit, Greenbelt East. And it's nice to be able to do that for the benefit of the residents who live there very close. So without further ado, I was looking around. We've got the fire department here, and if it's okay with the chief and with all of our police department people that are here, we'd like to actually invite Chief Ray to give us an update on the Engine Company 35 budget, where we're at with that. So Chief Ray, why don't you come on up? I think we got a microphone for you somewhere. Here we go.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and distinguished guests.
good evening. It's a pleasure to have you with us. And you got one of the ambulance rigs parked out front. First, I was thinking, oh man, something happened. But no, it's Engine Company 35 being on the job and doing what they do best.
Yeah, so we're actually in service, so just, utilizing our time to the best that we can. So,
Hey, so if you want to give us a quick update just on where we're at, Engine Company 35. I know we have a Four Cities meeting coming up next month, and we'll be talking with the Prince George's County Fire Chief. And some of the changes that have happened over the past few years have not been to our liking. But the volunteers and the career firefighters protect us, Greenbelt, Berwyn Heights, and just all the surrounding things. When there's a call, everybody responds, and whoever is closest is the first one there.
correct. Yeah.
So
Dispatching's off AVL, so whatever's closest unit, that's what you get. So, like you said, it could be, a person, a unit from Beltsville coming in. So,
do you want to just give us a real quick, just couple of?
yeah, so we're
Go ahead.
So we're still operating as a 100% volunteer firehouse. We have roughly about 20 fit-tested members. That's operational riding members. We have 2 probationary members and then 7 members in the application process. So the application process is filling out the initial background investigation for the county, doing the annual physical, and then getting voted in to the station, and then start your training. So right now, as I said, we got 20 operational members, and then probably 50 or so admin and auxiliary members.
It's great. It's great.
So last year we did roughly almost 2,000 hours of in-service time. That's apparatus on the street, and that's not including the community service hours. We didn't put that in there. So we're trying to do our part, protecting the city and county abroad. We're not asking for any increase in our budget. We do appreciate the money that you do set aside for our apparatus replacement fund. We're doing our part and trying to conserve our fleet. Our 2008 Chiefs buggy, we deadlined that just due to maintenance costs and repairs. We're not replacing it at this time because, unfortunately, I can't, do my Chiefs duties as running calls in the Chiefs buggy and staff and apparatus. Our priority right now is staff and apparatus, so it's not feasible to buy another vehicle just to sit there. So at this time, we're not replacing it. Hopefully, in the future, if we do get our career staff back, we might revisit that and purchase a new vehicle. Our both engines are in service and are well maintained. Our 2014 Pierce is projected to be replaced in 2029. That might be postponed if it's not costing us any outrageous repair costs. We're going to keep on prolonging that. You're looking at apparatus replacement for an engine now is over $1 million. So, when I first started, it was a little bit over 100,000. So now, I'm not trying to date myself on how many years I have, but it's definitely an increase. So our other engine is a 2021, and that's projected to be replaced in 2036. Once you start the process for a new engine, it's roughly now 5 years out. So if we really truly, we're behind the 8 ball now, replacing the one up in 29. But like I said, it's still in good shape, and we're gonna keep on postponing that until it's need to be replaced.
Hey, we have funding set aside in that apparatus replacement fund. So, like you said, it's something that we have to do every 5 or 6 years, or as the need presents itself. So we got your back with that. It sounds like a very conservative proposal.
On our EMS billing account, so based on transports, we have $241,000 or so in that account, and that goes towards fuel maintenance and replacement down the road for ambulance. So that's a revolving account. And actually, we don't actually see that money. It goes to the county general account, and then we put in for it as needed. We get from the county, we get 15,000. We used to get 22,000 a year, and that's for general maintenance and upkeep for station supplies and stuff. So they cut our funding on that.
I was going to ask you real quick. So how is the station right now? I know a few years back, there's a couple of leaks there and moved the HVAC system. Is the county keeping up with the request?
Most stuff we do on our own. That's why when we do our annual fund drive, that's when citizens donate money. That's what the money goes towards, and sometimes some big project stuff that we put aside. But for the county, the upkeep and all that, I don't think they're doing their part. Like I said, you ask to get something done, and then it's prolonged, so we end up just doing it to try to speed up the process.
Understood.
So you mentioned the HVAC. Our heating system, it's uncontrolled, so it's constant on boiler heat, and there's no thermostat to heat it, so the constant heat is just running, so it's not regulated. So, and the plumbing for that is pretty scary looking. If you go in the boiler room and look at it,
Yeah.
So, yes.
All right. Let's see, who's first? Councilmember Pompey.
Yeah, you mentioned that the county has decreased their contribution from 22,000 to say
15.
15,000.
Yeah.
Has that been a gradual decrease, or was that
That was
happen all at once, and how long? And when did it happen?
So probably about 4 years ago, our funding was cut, and we tried to. They said it was due to station being in service, but at that time we had career staff, so the station was operating 24/7, and that's what those funds are used for, is to put back into and maintain the station for everybody, for career and volunteers. But so we couldn't really get a truthful answer why the funds were cut, besides that they were saying the volunteers weren't taking part.
That was around 4 years ago, and there's been no talk of restoring the fund. And these.
Correct. There is a budget meeting tomorrow with county, so hopefully the current chief now, since we have a new chief, she'll advocate for some additional money, and hopefully they'll install us getting more money. So we'll see.
For next meeting.
Yeah, at 1:30, the Wayne Carey building.
But
Yeah.
Letter?
it's an email. Send a letter. I will do that. You're done?
We a couple of weeks ago we had discussed sending our priority request to the Tim Adams ahead of the budget meetings. We sent in two communications to him. One of them was the top priorities we discussed, public safety surcharges that are overdue to us from 2013. And the second correspondence was specifically reiterating our concerns around the lack of staffing at the fire department. So I essentially sent Councilmember Adams the correspondence we had with the county regarding the lack of staffing, the public safety concerns, and reiterated council's position that we want 24/7 staffing restored at the station. So
Can we CC our at-large county council person, Ivy, the chair, or Lida?
sure,
If we didn't put them, they're probably on the first one, just to remind everybody if it's possible to send an email. Yeah.
absolutely. I will forward the email to Ms. Hyvie and Mr. Harris. Anyone else you want to include in that email?
You can include both the at-large members if it.
All right. Yeah. So the chair.
So those are the two at-large.
Was it Eric? Eric? Oh well, I think the Fisher
It's
was.
Juanica. It's Juanica.
It's Juanica.
The Fisher.
Fisher, chair. That's right. Councilmember Kitty.
You had mentioned that you're 100% volunteer staff at this point. How many of those volunteer also are like career firefighters in other areas? Is there any, does that crossover happen or?
So we have probably 4 or 5 of our members are career firefighters in other jurisdictions.
Okay.
So, besides their family and then work,
Yeah.
when they get time, they come and volunteer. So,
Okay.
Any other questions? I was going to ask just about recruitment. Got anything coming up, recruitment drives or anything?
nothing that I'm aware of. We're doing touch a truck and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's coming up. And then, so we're always out in the public. So, always try to recruit.
Yeah, we appreciate you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Oh,
Chief, you talked about replacing that engine 2029. When do we have to start entering into contract for that? That's 2 years out, or less, about 2 years out.
So, like I stated, at this time, we're gonna hold off on that. Jeff, you sign a contract. Normally, it takes 5 years for we get it off the assembly line back. So right now, we're holding off because the engine's still in good shape. So that was always the numbers that we had. We used to replace our engines every 10 years, and we pushed it back to every 15. So as long as they're still working, maintained, you go working or just keep on pushing it back.
With that in mind, on our capital plan, we have a little over $700,000 in reserves for that replacement. Based on that 5-year timeline, what is the budgeted amount that we should target? Yeah, on track, I think we will be on track of setting aside about 1.2 million just in my back of the envelope calculation. Is that going to be sufficient, or will we need more? More directly, since we're pushing that purchase off, can we hold off on being so aggressive with the $125,000 that we're setting aside for engine replacement?
When you're looking at over just roughly over $1 million for replacement fire engine that. So I feel more comfortable if we had that count at $1 million, and then we could adjust from there. Just don't want to cut ourselves short. Something happens next year or so.
Does council have any thoughts on whether we slow down now or slow down after we've accumulated $1 million in that reserve account?
well, I think we need to take the middle path. We need to be prepared to fund that if it comes up. And hopefully, it's not going to come up this year or next year. So, what's your question?
Based on what Chief is saying, when we enter a contract, we have 5 years before we receive that vehicle. On a 5-year timeline horizon, if we have 750,000 now, that amount's going to go up a little bit over 100 next year, over another 100 next year. So just add up 500 over the next 5 years. That's going to put us at 1.2.
Right.
Right. So because we're cash sensitive now, I'm more inclined slowing down now and use the existing cash that we have for other needs. What Chief is asking that we get up to $1 million first and then slow down. So I'm asking council, do you have an opinion on that matter? Do we slow down now, or do we slow down after we've accumulated $1 million in that account?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yes, Councilmember Niesel.
Thanks. So I guess I want to make sure that I'm having the numbers right. You're saying how long do you think that you could push off if you had to push off because the vehicle is getting less use than we originally anticipated, right? So then if you're looking at like mileage and maintenance, how much longer do you think we could easily push it?
I mean, then that.
Yeah.
That. We need more for that. Already, now,
And at what mileage would you usually replace? Or is
I was based on, cost level, how many times break down the cost. And I have the place after 30 years, you get 30 years. Starts next.
all right? And then I have just a quick question for the city manager, and that is that full 700? It's never been touched for any other purpose, because I do see that that's a side note in the budget that council could use it for other purposes, and I want to make sure that we have not done that.
And I'll point you to page 266 in the budget book. That's the agency funds. The balance right now at the end of 2026, after we move over $120,000, the balance of the for the fire department engine equipment replacement will be $784,392. To your question, have we used these funds for other things? Looking at the historical record, we have in 2024 there was an $80,000 debit out of that account, and I think you purchased one of the smaller vehicles.
And we'll be essentially for its money.
So that's the activity that we've had in the recent years. Prior to 2024, I would have to look at, or prior to 2023, I would have to look at our records to see what other expenditures we've had. But,
Thank you for pointing me to that stage.
okay, you're welcome.
Councilmember Pope.
I agree with, but they said they're gonna fund it, make sure we have the money in the account, because we don't know what's gonna happen in the next few years, so it could get worse. And then we don't wanna be in a situation where we are not able to fund it and provide the state stock. Well, I don't feel what the make sure we have the money in the account. I understand you can use the money, but in various different ways, but we plan to see it.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem?
I guess, though, we have other possible sources, like if it came up that something catastrophic happened and we had it to replace it sooner, we would have other sources, reserves that we could pull on if we needed to, but we don't expect to have to replace the fire truck for 4 or 5 years at least. I guess it seems like because that is money, we would have other options if for some reason we needed to replace it before we were able to build up, because if it's 780 now, and that's at the end of 26, so that means what we're talking about is adding another 230,
120.
120. So that puts us at 900 for 20 at the end of 27. And if it's still going to be another couple of years, I guess it seems to me like there might be some wiggle room there if we need, because we are in such a tight budget situation this year. Because if it came up that we hadn't gotten back up to the over $1 million that we probably need, there would be other places, other reserves we could pull that from if we needed to.
There's enough money in unassigned cash balances that we could pull from. I want to put the term catastrophic in perspective. If this thing was to break down tomorrow, we can't go in a lot and just pick out a fire truck and buy it. We would have some time, right? What would be the fastest we can get a fire truck if we're in an emergency?
I mean, you get a basic model, they assemble a lot throughout the year, so you could at it first. 6 months.
Okay, so it's 6 months. I think we can get creative or expeditiously find whatever money we need within that 6 month period.
We have contingencies.
But normally, so you were saying the 5-year contract. So the ideal would not be that 6 month. It would be have a longer time frame, so it's a little bit more of a custom, exactly what we want. Is that the idea?
Correct.
Yeah.
Councilmember Pope.
No, that was my question too. Which model would you like? Which model do we need? So that one.
Okay, we do have a question here in the room. Jay Davis, there's a microphone.
Testing. Oh, there it is. You just got to get real close to it, Jay.
First of all, I apologize for not being here earlier, so some of these questions may have already been answered. Usually there is a written report that you turn in. Did you have a written report?
We provided one, just,
Yes, he did, Jay, and I actually just emailed the team why it wasn't in the placket. I did share it with council immediately when I got it from the chief, but for some reason didn't make it on the packet. I'll forward you the
Okay.
correspondence right now.
Or I can pick it up, it's no problem.
Okay.
Also, there were questions that council asked, or there were some questions that were sent to you. Are you planning to answer those?
yeah, I mean, I did answer some.
Is that part of the report?
Yes, that's the information that was
Okay.
uploaded to the.
The other thing that I just wanted to ask, how many active volunteers do you have right now?
So, one, very content. Why not glad?
Okay,
Volunteer.
right. Yeah. And did you receive any ambulance fees?
So right now, we have 241,000 app county Mason. So almost for over a year, the county not built water. Now it's not getting kept up. Going, with funding them now.
Okay, because basically that hacking happened quite a long time ago. Because I think I asked the same question last year, and you said they were still holding on to it. So there's 240,000 right there that you could get a hold of if you could.
It's all based on the government.
Yeah.
So it's our fact, what's, might not, well, it might see, $500.
All right. So the 240,000 is total ambulance fee for the whole county
No, that's in our account.
in your account.
Yeah, so that's from when we first started EMS billing.
Okay.
So, years ago.
Well, some of my money is in that fund, so
And we
make sure you
appreciate
get it.
Yep.
Ms. Davis, you got it.
Then there's also a volunteer staffing utilization incentive program. Have you applied for that?
So we do take part in that. That's operating a 12-hour block once a month. And so it depends on how many corporations take part in that. It's divided up into that. And normally that's $500 to $1,000.
Oh, so it's not that much.
No.
Okay. Thank you very much. And thank you for your service as
Thank
much as you can give. Thank you.
I do.
Thanks for those questions, Jim. Let's see, we have one more. Mr. Orleans, please.
Thank you. I have suggested in the past, I think, in the 21st century, a system that was once wonderful and spirited, a system in which we have volunteer firefighters is misplaced. But that aside, I believe I heard in response to a question, there are no county parental firefighters assigned to Greenville at the moment. Is that accurate?
Correct. There's no personnel assigned there, but there
In
is
all, you may not know the answer to this question, but we should all know it. In all the other county volunteer fire departments in the county, what's the distribution of professional firefighters there? And if some of them have them, what would be the reason that we don't have professional county employee firefighters assigned to Greenville?
Career firefighters, please.
So there's a shortage in personnel in the county. So they deemed there's 2 years ago now we lost them, roughly, almost 2 years. There, yeah, 5 stations lost their career staff. Out of that, 2 of them got them back. So Berlin Heights received their day crew back, and Bunker Hill received their 24/7 career guys back.
It may well be with the new fire chief, some of these questions will be answered at Forest City. You might want to come to it. I look forward to whatever that discussion is. But I would just suggest to us all, members of council, city staff, and residents, that whether I'm right or wrong about what's appropriate in the 21st century, we all ought to have a better understanding why the county, who has primary responsibility for firefighting and emergency medical service in this county, is not meeting its responsibility, and that it may be relying too much on the efforts of the remaining volunteer company.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Just one more. So, how is our historic 1937 fire engine doing? I think a former city council member was instrumental in sort of keeping it running in a couple of the places.
It keeps it up and running, and it's so maybe it may get to the touch of truck. We'll see. As long as the weather's good.
That'll be great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for your service. Thanks to all the 20 folks who worked together to provide additional protection that we need, both the fire, EMS program is so important. We actually have EMS folks out there on bicycle during 4th of July festival and other big gatherings. Is very doing everything, some really creative, innovative things. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Chief, before you go, I think the mayor was being a little coy. I will have to ask, will council be able to ride the fire truck Labor Day Festival?
Yes.
Away, all sorts of things can happen. Fingers crossed, though, right?
Okay. Hey, so at this time, let's go ahead and move to the police department budget. Chief, welcome. Pull up a chair.
Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening. Good evening. Chief Bowers, once again, public safety is the largest chunk of our budget, more than a third in the city of Greenbelt. That's not unusual, but the city council and our residents need to have the reassurance and knowing that when something happens, the Greenbelt Police Department will respond in an appropriate way. That includes the crisis intervention to being able to co-respond. So I think you have some information. Do you have a PowerPoint or something for us?
I do not have a PowerPoint tonight.
Okay.
I'm going to ban myself from PowerPoint since the last one ran a little longer than it should. But nonetheless, our budget remains generally consistent from last year, which is really consistent from the previous year. The biggest changes in our budget this year is an increase in salary costs, and that's as a result of the collective bargaining agreement, which called for an additional percentage increase for CBA members. The other large change to our budget this year is an expense under the stop sign camera line, which you'll see an extra $282,000, and that reflects directly the costs associated with the stop sign program. That's the expenditure portion of that program. So you'll see that line jumped considerably, and so that's that direct reflection of that. Some key things to note about our budget this year, which I have here in our comments. They include funding for all of our positions. So as of this morning, we were fully staffed at 72 people. We did have an employee retire today. So Mr. Jim Parker retired from our CLIA accreditation manager. So we'll be looking to quickly refill that position. So as of this evening, we're at 71. But we'll get back there pretty quickly. We also have included funds for a small replacement vehicle number this year. And then some of the bigger notes that for our budget, over the last several years, we have reduced some positions from our budget, including halftime parking enforcement and halftime animal control. And the biggest one that hurts us is we did reduce our records staff by one. And where that's becoming a long-term issue is the legislature has continued to add mandatory oh my gosh, my brain just completely like expungements. Thank you. Brain lock there. Expungements. So one of our records clerks pretty much spends her day doing expungements. We went from averaging, maybe like 50 expungements a year to well over 200. And that number continues to grow as these mandatory expungements come along, and they're just automated from the court now. As soon as the time hits post-conviction, the paperwork is sent to us from the court, and we're expunging those records. And so that has really been a big drain on our records staff. We have 2 records clerks. We used to have 3. So we're down to 2 records clerks. So that drain, in addition to keeping up with all of the other mandatories, is really cut into our sort of other things that our record staff is able to accomplish. And so that's been a big one. The other thing that we did, our crisis intervention team, that had been ARPA funded. And so the supervisor position was fully ARPA funded. This year, it's only partially ARPA funded, and the rest of the funds are transferred into our regular operating budget. And the other thing was the secondary ARPA position that we had was not funded in this budget, and we are looking to secure a grant to cover the additional cost for that. There's a state aid grant that's coming out shortly that we'll be applying for to cover the cost for the second position. And those are important that we keep going with our crisis intervention team. The number of calls and the services provided continue to escalate. So it's an important function that we provide, and having 2 clinicians, we have a clinician and then a coordinator that assists. So being able to handle all the back end paperwork, all of the follow-up and the referrals, things like that is huge. And that's in addition to the officers that are CIT trained, and I think Deputy Chief White, he walked out, but I think the number is about 20. He's right there. He moved on me. I think the number is about 22 officers are CIT trained. And so that's the majority of our patrol staff. So that's a huge number. And that CIT training, we actually offer in-house now. It's a 40-hour program. So it's a full week class, and it's put on in conjunction with our CIT team, clinician Rachel Tobin, along with some outside providers that we put that class on, not only for our staff, but for other agencies as well. The most recent one was done down at the University of Maryland, and a number of officers attended, as well as from other agencies. So those are kind of our budget highlights. Again, like I say, nothing has substantially changed from the previous years, except for in the salary line and in that's red light camera line that you see the additional monies.
Hey, thank you so much, Mr. Summerall.
Chief, if you can touch base on the importance of that second CIT position, because one of the challenges we expect is that handing off and working with cares, we don't have that extra capacity.
Yeah,
That add anything else.
I think it's one of the things that the program really has to have is that second person, because of the volume of calls for service she takes. And the Deputy Chief probably has those statistics on the top of his head because we just got them. The number of calls for service she takes, and then all of those individuals that come into the program all need to be referred out, and those cases have to be handled within the computer system. So it's the referrals, it's the note taking, it's all of the administrative process that our coordinator position handles that makes the front line happen. You can't do anything without like that back end support. And so the person that we have actually is working half-time in CARES, Gales, and then half-time with us. And so we're looking to maintain and keep that person with the organization. And that's where we're looking to get secure grant funding to continue with that position.
Thank you. Councilmember Poppy.
So you're looking to maintain, so when you said that the position is halftime, it's halftime with the police department, halftime, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
It's up to 1 full-time person, but
Yes, ma'am. So it's currently ARPA funded, and so we share an employee with the Gales program, and so that's how we're able to make it work right now.
and so the person that you would be looking for your own halftime person, or is this a full-time staff person that you would continue to share?
It's a full-time staff person that we would, if there's no work in Gale, we would just convert that person to solely being with the police department
And
as a full-time position.
And is this like a social work position, or is it mostly administrative work?
It's a hybrid of both.
Okay.
So she mainly handles the coordination side, but she does handle some of the on-scene portion as well.
Okay. I've got a few questions just having to do with revenue. I'll go with Councilmember Fritz. Go ahead, please.
Well, my question is also about revenue. So I think I know the answer to this, but I'll ask anyway. the state of Maryland allows counties to charge a 911 fee per line. So if you have 5 cell phone lines, you can charge the fee to all 5 lines. There's a state share of 50 cents, and then the county can set a rate. Do we get any kind of pass? So yeah, I guess that answer, but I wanted to
Because we're a secondary PSAP,
Right.
the county answers all 911 and then transfers them to us, so they take the funding.
is that automatically routed based on geolocation, or is it they have to manually?
They have to manually do it. So they actually take the call. Will, in many cases, will start entering the call and then send the call to us in CAD, and then they transfer the voice call secondary.
Thank you.
And we would be very much interested in being a primary access, public safety access point. The challenge we have is that the state mandates, has state regulations of how many of these tier 1 centers can be. And there can only be 1 per county. And that 1 per county is based on the 911 calls are for all emergencies. So when you call 911, that's fire, EMS, police.
And thank you for bringing that up because, you're talking about 1 per county, if you think about that actually in actual terms, you're talking about like Talbot County, which has 20,000 people, which is smaller than the city of Greenbelt. And you're talking about Prince George's County, which is over 900,000 people, right? So that kind of 1 county rule kind of is, obviously there's geographic limitations and, I'm sure there might be technical issues having too many, but, there's a huge difference between counties. We place the counties all in parity, but they're very different, every single one. Montgomery and Prince George's are the only ones that are over 900,000. So it's not a very uniform system population-wise, but, in geographic area, there might be a little more parity.
Everyone, please stop touching your microphones. Like, really, no, I'm not joking. Please stop touching the base of your microphones. That's what's causing the jarring feedback. I don't think we need to touch them at all. We don't need to touch them. Every time someone shifts it, I feel like it's
Hey, so just looking at the on the revenue side of things, with the stop sign cameras and the red light cameras and parking citations, we talked about some of the administrative parking enforcement. So I'm just wondering, it's a good chunk of the revenue that's coming in. It helps quite a bit. So I'm just wondering on the administrative side, with the new stop sign program, with the red light cameras and the speed cameras, administratively, do our people have a percentage of their time that they're spending administering these programs, or is it completely outsourced?
So each program varies a little bit, but most of them are generally operated by the vendor themselves. And then our portion of time is in actual citation approval, or collecting a payment. So we don't generally handle a lot of the administrative tasks. Those are handled by the vendors. Our portion is in citation approval.
Right. And I got to tell you, I got a citation from another municipality not too long ago, and I was just going to pay the ticket. I looked at the camera to see the video of the infraction, and when it looked as though I was not guilty, but it was only a day until the deadline. So with Greenbelt, when someone gets a citation through the automated companies, do they have five days to ask for a hearing? And if they do ask for a hearing, we have to send an officer down in person.
It depends on the program. And so the automated stop sign company, they actually will send a representative to testify in court. The other programs, we have to send someone to testify in court. And in each citation comes with all the directions printed on there of how to request a court date. And so there's some time sensitivity to it so that you can get on the docket quickly, but all of that is on the citation.
Yeah. Gosh, I got that. I'm not guilty, but there's nothing I could do. I have to pay it.
We believe you, Mayor.
We believe it. And also on the revenue side, with the grants, we've been pretty successful with those state grants, but they're pretty cumbersome to put together. So citywide, we have a grant coordinator now. Because the police grants are so specialized, Is there a person or a team, a grants team within the police department, and are you able to avail yourselves of some support from overall city grants here?
So we get either two kinds. We get multitude of grants, and they all come with a different lift. So the state highway grants, those come with a small lift and some record keeping, and that's usually handled by our traffic team, who handles those with the assistance of the Administrative Services Lieutenant. The GoCap grants, those are done by our Administrative Services Lieutenant, like Afkar. He's hiding in the back somewhere. And he does get assistance from the grants coordinator, Ms. Huey. And so that's a partnership program as we work through those. And then Mike's also recently received some grants from Legit and some MPTC for training coverage. And so they all come with varying degrees of difficulty, but we work through those. The bigger ones, anytime you start dealing with the federal grants, those are the ones that come with the most back end that goes into them. So we'll be looking at applying for a brine grant for the CIT position. So that'll come with some additional paperwork, but it's all through GoCap. So we'll be submitting those. And we have worked, I know Mike has really put a lot of energy into applying for more and more grants. And you've seen we've received a few more. We did receive another one from Legit really recently to help cover some driver's ed training, internal driver training. So those are the ones that we apply for. And they're generally one-time grants. They're not necessarily huge sums of money, but every couple of $1,000s helps.
Okay. Let's see, Mayor Pro Tem, and then Councilmember McKinney. Councilmember McKinney.
Looking at the expenses, the insurance line has definitely gone up. I mean, I know that's everything when it comes to insurance. So there's two questions. The first is, are you accounting for, what percentage increase are you accounting for in the long-term forecast that I know were included earlier in the budget? And then the second question is there room to potentially negotiate some of these insurance fees with other companies, or are you set within a contract?
So I'm going to let City Manager answer that.
So that line E33 for insurance, that's our that line E33 insurance, that is our general liability and property and peril insurance. So that's not good. That's with Legit. So we're kind of limited to the pool estimates for that. Where the health insurance benefits are under the E28, the employee benefits, and the non-departmental, which is the workers' compensation insurance. Okay. Those are where we have some influence to curtail expenses. Obviously, we can select a plan and determine deductibles for that. That would be that E28 under the employee benefits health insurance. On the workers' comp, we've done some policy adjustments where we're having our own medical team review those workers' comps claims to have second set of eyes. I don't know how deep we want to go into workers' comp, but it's been one of the difficult things to control expense.
And from a forecasting perspective, are you anticipating that, even though that is legit, that number to go up, that's almost $40,000 that's this year, line 33. So adopted 150 and then proposes here.
Yes, we just reviewed that a proposal from Legit. Because of how Legit works, it's a group pool, so the municipalities are in the pool. So if we have losses across the peer group, then we kind of all take a hit. If we do well, then there's room for rebates and reduction in cost. So, but the benefit of the Legit pool is that we're getting a type of coverage that is not available in the commercial insured network. We are being insured for things that we couldn't possibly get some of the coverage that we're able to get as at the pool, as a municipal pool.
So I guess, okay, that's helpful, but do you anticipate that 230 will remain? I know it fluctuates based on that, but how do we account for that from a forecast perspective? So like next year, will we see another $40,000?
Yeah.
So should we budget that?
Yeah, so during our review with the Leggett team, they are concerned about some of the litigation cases in the state, particularly losses related to the police departments. Some of the juries are awarding damages for injuries that are beyond what insurance can provide. So there was a state legislation to put a cap on those lawsuits against law enforcement activities so that the municipalities could control or manage their losses better. So those are risk factors that Legit is aware of and is trying to work around so that we limit our exposure. And you know, as I've shared with council, we've gotten sued for a variety of things. Someone broke an axle on a pothole and they sued us for it. That's part of our Legit insurance. We've had individuals suing us over police activities. One case was a suit for false arrest, where we had evidence to arrest an individual based on complaints and evidence that we received. And we went to court and the victim didn't show up. So the case got dropped and the person is suing us. And we were successfully at getting that dismissed on our part. So we're no longer a party in that suit, but that suit continues with the victim and the case. So there are things like that that we just don't have control over, and it's a jury. They're having more discretion on what kind of damages. But Legit is doing their own forecasting because that's what they're tasked to do. So part of our annual review with them is, okay, what's the risk profile for certain activities and what can we do to reduce our risk? So a big topic of discussion was cybersecurity. We've had several municipalities have ransomware of their networks and have their network compromised, and that's caused some expenses for Legit. So one of the things Legit is doing to control that cost, it would incorporate assessments, IT assessments, and vulnerability assessments as part of their insurance coverage for us. So they're helping us identify risk and reducing of risk as a means to control costs. Did that answer your question?
And of course, Legit stands for Local Government Insurance Trust. And it's a cooperative of share our risk with municipalities throughout the state of Maryland. Which helps. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, the grants question made me think of something else, because we have had in some of the poor cities, and I feel like at other times, some interest from other municipalities in our crisis intervention team process. Have we had anybody approach us, for example, asking Rachel to do some training with their officers or anything like that? Just curious.
So the city of Hyattsville recently hired a clinician and started a program, and we have helped them with policies and training, and Rachel's helped their person get some training on the job training and get up to speed with what she does so they can provide similar services.
And go ahead. Do you have something to comment on that? Because I have a completely unrelated question.
No, I wanted to add something to Councilman McKinney.
Okay, go ahead. Because I have a totally different question after that.
So E33 also includes collisions and vehicle damages. So that's a challenge. That's an issue that we have had where we've lost several vehicles, and so Chief knows I've addressed it with Chief several times about having lost some vehicles.
And see, that's sort of a segue to my question, because I'm curious about the new electric vehicle cruiser. I know it hasn't been that long. Any initial thoughts?
So
I loved it.
Hopefully it hasn't crashed.
No, we haven't crashed it yet. We've only had the car for about a week.
Okay, it's
Give or
been
take.
that short of time. Okay, well, never mind. It's too early to ask the question.
And it still needs a few upfit items. IT needs to touch it so we can have a mobile computer in the car, and there's a few other things. We're going to have some testing of it with an officer later this week. Was hoping to get it done beforehand, but I get they can't use their computer in the car right yet, so that really is distracting. We did have an officer use it for a shift, and without being, it was a kind of a light night, and without having a computer and running the lights and things like that, it burned about 25% of the battery in a shift. So not terrible. The problem that we have, the biggest problem we have is recharging the car. We do have a charger in our parking lot, and I'll be upfront that I am no expert in battery powered cars. I read all this on the internet, so here's what I got. A level 2 charger is between 6 and 18 kilowatts. Ours is 6, which is essentially a level 1 charger. So it takes about 9 hours to charge the battery about 30%. So in any sort of widespread usage, I see some limited usage for the car in terms of how we can assign it out and make it viable, organizationally wide viability. Based on that, I don't see a ton of use for it, because really the problem then, because a car has to be able to charge overnight to be usable for multiple shifts. Very few of our officers have chargers at home. We're not going to provide infrastructure at people's residence to charge cars overnight. So for those officers that could perhaps charge a car at home, we might be able to find some scalable usage there. For the rest of the officers that don't have that ability, like gasoline powered cars are still going to have to be the norm. I think the hybrid style cars that we're purchasing are going to be the norm. I do think there's some applicable abilities for battery powered cars, but given the limitations of recharging it quickly is the issue. And if we brought in, even if we were able to afford to be able to bring in some level 3 chargers, I mean, that's not something that the car can sustain. You can't level 3 charge it on a regular basis, because you'll destroy the batteries that way. So it's a learning curve for us, and so we'll be gathering more and more data as we move through. It's only been a week, so give us a little time and some real testing of the car at it. Once it's got a computer installed and it's being used a little bit more heavy, and the batteries are being drained on a little bit more regular basis, and we get a better idea. But it looks like it will have some usability. The question is how widespread.
I'll ask again in a few months. And I will say that seems slower than the charger at the municipal building.
It's actually the exact same.
Because I've gotten a quarter of a tank in my car at the municipal building during a lengthier council meeting.
We took the car down and we plugged it in at the one at the municipal building. It's still giving the same 6 kilowatts. So it's a learning curve for us. So we'll keep trying to learn, and we've got some people in the city who know more than I do, and so we'll keep pulling those resources. And the city manager, I'm sure he's got a battery powered car, so he'll help us in the right direction.
I'll look forward to the update in a couple months and see how it's going.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I would think that would not be a take-home car while it's being tested out. Just kind of keeping it close to home, close to the city. But yes,
we've got to see what it's capable.
Yeah,
I mean that's the reality. If you limit its usage, then you'll only ever have limited data. So we have to be able to figure out its viability as a fleet-wide vehicle.
Got it. I got a couple of questions just, about retention and attrition, and just, I want to compliment you and the police department on the social media outreach that seems to be having an impact. Is that having a pretty big impact on applications, people wanting to join the cleaned up police department, and we just don't have enough room for them all?
I'd like to say the answer is yes. I will say that the social media outreach is a team approach, team effort, and we've done a really good job of really trying to focus our message in a couple of different directions, and the quality of the product that we're putting out. And I do think it did have an impact. We saw a substantial number of applications, particularly in our communications office, where we were struggling to get applicants, and maybe we would have a testing date with 4 or 5 people. We were having testing dates with over 20, which is max we can do. Same police officer wise, we really were able to bring in a number of applicants and the spokes process. So I do think that the social media has really worked well for our recruiting, and I will definitely kind of segue just real briefly on the social media. The one thing that we focused on is really like information. If you recall 2 weeks ago, Mayor Pro Tem asked if we would put some information out as it relates to all of the camera systems and the technical specifications. And you saw a series of posts related to that. City manager and I were having a conversation the other day about stolen cars and how people should what were steps you should take. And so we were able to take that and produce some information with it. And so really looking to be more informationally driven and the kind of the posts that we're putting out. And that's the team that's responsible for that. And they do a great job. And that's under Lieutenant Apgar's team. So they really do good work in that social media posts and everybody paying attention to what goes on there. And then being timely. I got the email from Councilmember Pompey about the timeliness of some stuff we put out today. And so it is about being timely and getting good quality information out in a timely manner that can be usable by our residents. So that's important. And then just to kind of segue back to retention real quick, and I will say that while I would love to take credit for some of it, I take credit for none of it. And I say that because it's the team approach, and all the folks that are represented here from the organization are all part of that. And it boils down across the entire organization. The recruitment, the retention, it's a departmental wide function. Many of the members that were recruited in knew somebody in our building already. And so now they're friends with employees and friends like working with friends. And we have a tendency to stay together. The environment created across the building by the lieutenants and Captain Gullidge, particularly in our patrol division with Lieutenant Fernandez and preceded by Captain Gullidge, is a team building positive approach. We have people who want to be here and they enjoy each other's company. They enjoy coming to work. They enjoy going out as a team and doing things. We've made some scheduling changes to permanent shifts, so permanent days, permanent evenings, permanent mids, which we think goes a long way to improving people's home lives and their personal time. So all of that is a team effort from Deputy Chief on down, really trying to have a positive attitude and a positive environment for everyone to be in. And the officers themselves are part of that effort as well, right? It doesn't stop with us. It's all 71 people in the building working towards the same thing, which is to maintain all 71 people in the building.
Yeah, constant churn though. People are retiring. Some people have other opportunities with so many other police departments in the area. And with the recruitment piece, actually from applying and taking physical and going through the academy, what percentage of recruits actually make it through the academy in order to be hired?
It's about 95%. We have very few failures. So we average about 90 to 95% of the people that we send will graduate.
Okay. Good. Councilmember Pompey, you had a question?
My question was just going to be about the recruitment and the retention. Although you did from retirement today, this is the first time since I've been a council member that we had done voting staff, and I was just wondering if there was something you felt like something had changed, or is it just kind of the luck of the draw because you had your retirements this year, so it just worked out for you that way? Or
I think it's kind of a little bit of everything. I think the effort, particularly in our communications staffing, the recruiting that we did there and getting so many more applicants in allowed us to be more successful to get the 3 people hired to get to full staff. In the 8 years that I've been with the city, police officer wise, we've been to full staff once or twice. Communications, we've never been to full staff in 8 years. So to have 8 people in the office really is a huge thing. Now they've got to get through training, and that's a difficult proposition still. And we have high hopes that they will get through training. But it's nice when you have everybody in the building. It allows a lot more flexibility for what you do. And in the police officer side, again, that recruiting piece, but and I hate to say too much and jinx myself because, people could leave tomorrow, right? And then we're back where we were. But I think it is an up and down, starting with everybody in the building, that people want to be there. We provide a lot of opportunity. We try to provide a positive place for everyone to work, and the commanders go through and spend a lot of time with staff, making sure that people are getting what they need from us. Our job is to enable others to succeed, right? Give everyone a chance to do their best work every day. And that's what we as command staff work towards, the sergeants work towards, the corporals work towards. Right on down to the newest officers in the building. Everybody's given that opportunity to succeed and do what they think that is their part of law enforcement. Because we're a small agency, we don't offer everything that a county agency would offer, but we try to give everybody an opportunity to do everything if they want to.
with that one retirement, that was Mr. Parker, who was a retired sworn police officer with the Greenbelt Police Department for a long time. And so his responsibilities were sort of managing this certification that we are very, very proud of in the CLIA certification process. So, and that was his full-time thing.
So Mr. Parker was the full-time accreditation manager. So he had been with the city for 42 years, the first 30 as a police officer, the last 12 as our accreditation manager. And so Jim was a vital part of the organization for a long time. He retired as a captain. And so we'll definitely miss him. But, we'll continue to move the process along. And, with the CLIA is an interesting, which is the accreditation that we serve. It's Commission for Law Enforcement Accreditation, if anybody didn't know what CLIA was. But at any rate, we're in what's called a gold tier, which is 486 standards that we fill. We're one of about 3% of law enforcement agencies that occupy that tier. Almost all of our peer agencies are in what's called LE1, which is a lower tier, which is 180 standards. And all those are mission critical standards, health and welfare. So there are two different levels. And we're right now committed to, for the next 2 years, to remain in the gold standard. And at some point, if we want to look at dropping down to the LE1, which is an easier tier to manage and a little less in terms of staff time to manage. Because right now, Lieutenant Parsley, he's going to be taking over as the accreditation manager and will supervise the next person that comes in. So we maintain our current accreditation level. But it is an expensive thing to do to maintain the highest standard. And one of the things that the gold tier is intended for very large agencies that do a lot of different things. So there's some of the standards that we just don't do, right? So then, but we're having to prove that those files that we either did it in some way or we're in compliance. So there is some of that goes on. So looking at what tier, then, out into the future, what tier do we want to be part of? What's the most appropriate place? In the state, about 98% of all agencies are what's called LE1, which is the 186 standards.
Yeah, the accreditations in general can be challenging. And I know when we in Greenbelt build a new building, and with many other municipalities across the country, when it comes time to build a new building, there's this certification or accreditation called the LEED certification. So what many municipalities do is they maintain those same standards in building the building. They just don't go for the accreditation. So maybe that's something.
So like when we build a new police station, we would definitely be nobody. An armory site.
But I know former Police Chief Craze and the council at that time were just dead set. That gold standard is what we want to maintain. It's just a question of how we go about maintaining that in a way that's manageable and appropriate police department of our size. Councilmember Fritz, you had a question? Gesundheit also. Bless you.
Thank you. DACA. But I guess my question was back, it was kind of building off of Councilmember Poppy's question, but I know that a lot of agencies, when you had that kind of surge in retirements stemming from, there was a surge in hiring nationwide in the 90s, with the crime bill, the 94 crime bill, and the cops grants that came out of that, has our kind of the median age of our sorry, I have to adjust the pace for a second. Has the median age of kind of have things leveled out a little more? Because I know that there kind of was kind of a top heavy issue in a lot of departments, not just, and that was a nationwide issue because of national trends around hiring and then slowdowns with the Great Recession and things like that. Have things started to level out and get more kind of stability in retirements? And is that contributing to the ability to kind of hit full headcount again?
So that is a portion of it. We went through, the late teens, a massive retirement within the organization. And we kind of got to the end of that about a year and a half ago, maybe a little longer than that. So as of right now, there's only a handful of people who are actually eligible to retire. over the next 3 years, there's only, again, a small number of people that will become eligible. So retirements now have become a little bit more of a manageable number. But again, there are people, I think right now we have 4 to 5 people who are eligible to retire. None of them are currently planning to retire, but life could change on you in a second, right? And so that if we need to turn that machine back on, we can.
And, our residents, with the information that you gathered and shared about privacy and technology, we rely and use sophisticated technology more and more to enable the number of police officers that we have to be as effective as they possibly can. But these questions around confidentiality and managing information are very important to all of us on the council and to everybody who lives in the city. So I'd asked the question whether or not there was sort of a single point of contact in the police department, a single person that's kind of keeping an eye on these different technologies so that be responsive, accountable for questions that come up. You did reply a response, but I'm wondering if you or somebody from the police department can kind of talk about how we manage information privacy.
We covered a lot of this at the council meeting 2 weeks ago, so I don't want to rehash the entire thing all over again. It's managed through our policies, and all of our data privacy policies, whether they be through NCIC, meters, miles, the data that we send in our LPR policy to the state through to MCAC, or in the policies that govern how the speed camera, red light camera, stop sign camera data is used. All of that stuff is publicly available, and it ensures privacy. And there's a lot of different state laws that regulate all of those components, and we have to comply with each and every one of them. And so it is something that we're mindful of. And if you're looking for a single point of contact, that's me, right? And then I have people within the organization that I would ask that question of, whether it be an automated program, which is in our administrative services division, or the LPR program, which is managed by our professional standards.
So any new, speaking of the legislative session just ended 2 weeks ago, so is there any new legislation that would impact any of our policies that you are looking at and trying to figure out how we can make sure that you're abiding by new legislation?
The biggest piece of legislation that came out that will directly affect us once the model policy is created by the Trading Commission standards will be the mask policy that was passed. So there was a piece of legislation that will dictate when and where a police officer can wear a face covering. But again, that's subject to the state Trading Commission issuing their model policy that we'll have to adopt.
Understood. Let's see, council, the public, any questions on Mr.? Well, we sort of started off that way, but then the council members.
Questions ahead of time.
Okay, I believe Mr. Orleans actually had his hand up first. Mr. Orleans?
Thank you. I'm aware, we're all aware that there's an expense line for the police department. I'm not aware that there's a revenue line. The budget comments indicates that the police department was a recipient of at least one grant. I don't know what it stands for, but GO CCP or GO CCP. I don't know what grant that is, but it recipient of at least one there. I'm wondering if is that credited as a police department revenue, and any other grant that the police department gets, and there should be a list of them somewhere. Is that considered a revenue to the police department, or just a revenue to the city that's distributed to the police department? And I would ask the same question with regard to the MOU with WMATA. Does that money go directly to the police department, or does it go to the city and then is credited to the police department? And I have a second question.
So GOCCP stands for the Governor's Office of Crime Control and Prevention.
Thank you.
And so those are specific program-oriented grants, so the money can only be spent on the program that it was paid for. In that case, that was your recruiting or retention grant. Second answer to your question is the WMATA MOU is a reimbursable expense. So we work the overtime at the WMATA rail yard, and then we submit an invoice to them, and they submit a payment back to us. So it's a zero account. If there's an out and an in, and it always zeroes itself back out again.
So there's no line for that.
There is a line for it, yes, but it's always at zero.
Are there other grants that the police department has received?
We receive small grants from the State Highway Administration. Our largest grant is the State Aid for Police Protection Grant, which comes from the Governor's Office of Crime Control.
You mentioned a partnership. Is there only one partnership in which the police department?
When you say,
I
don't know if I use the word partnership, but
you mentioned that the police department has a partnership with some entity. I forget now what it was. I didn't write it down, but you said it. Oh, I believe it's true.
I mean, the only partnership we have is a partnership officer with Spring Hill or Franklin Park apartment complex, and that is partially funded by them, partially funded by the city. It's about a 50-50 split.
But there's no line in the budget for the money received for them.
It is
There is.
in a revenue.
I will look in the book. And that presumably that would equate to what occurs at Beltway Plaza as well?
We do not have a partnership with Beltway Plaza.
Oh, okay. I have a second question.
You've got about 30 seconds.
How often would it be that a Greenbelt police officer either makes an arrest or issues a citation and then subsequently doesn't appear in court, and for what reason?
I couldn't even answer your question about how often.
We don't know how many arrests are made or how many citations are given?
You're asking how often they appear, they're summoned to court and don't appear. I can't answer that question. If they don't appear in court, it's likely because they were sick or may not have received notification in a timely manner to be there.
The court would not have informed the city
You're at
in a
your
timely
time.
manner?
Thank you, Mr. Owens. I do want to follow up on the partnership question with Franklin Park. Our personnel costs have increased each year. So have we adjusted the input, the contribution from Franklin Park to continue on with that successful program?
We have in past years, we have not this year.
Okay. Well, it seems 5%. We're looking at a 5% increase. So I think that we probably should incorporate a 5% increase and we're looking for contribution towards that program. I'd like to suggest that we put that in the budget. The other partnership is with the schools. I'd like to suggest that we do that.
I'm sorry. You want us to charge Franklin Park an extra 5%?
Yes, I'd like to incorporate the 5% increase that we're looking at this
How
year.
we negotiate.
We would need to have that conversation with Franklin Park.
Please, let's have that conversation.
Okay. That's the will of council?
I think we need to look at, no, I think that's something that we need to hold for later because also it looks like that's 70,000 right now. That's on the miscellaneous revenues on page 67. And so 5% of that I'm not sure that's worth doing right now. Yeah, I think that's something we should think about maybe for next year, but I'm not sure. I think it's a little bit late to try to negotiate with Franklin Park this year, but let's put a pin in that for next year.
Well, I do want to put a pin in that, even for this year. And, at the beginning of this budget cycle, I talked about 5%. So,
It's just ongoing.
I mean, I think if you want to do that, I think you have to affect what was really good. So I don't want to, I mean, it's correct. I mean, we have extra costs. When I want to be partnership, but I think it's good. So I definitely need to plan for the next budget. Yeah, I don't want to move it.
the other partnership is with the Prince George's County with our work with the school resource officer. So have we seen any adjustments from the county as far as taking into account the real personnel costs that we hear?
Yes, we've seen adjustments from the county downward. We went from 240 to $80,000.
We went from 140.
Oh, 140. Yeah, $80,000. So that's a difference of 60.
Yeah, I realize that, but are we asking for more?
We're currently negotiating that.
Yeah, we're working out a new agreement. So without getting too far into it, we're working out a new agreement with the county police.
And finally, I see you've got a proposal to try and put someone part-time there as a liaison to the middle school.
Mhm.
So that's incorporated in the
So
budget.
that is not a budgetary item that will result in any money from the county.
Mm-hmm.
It is part of our regular policing activities.
Very good. Yes, Jay Davis.
Okay. The animal control team, is anyone going to be here tonight for that?
Yep.
That they're coming up? Okay. All right. I was just waiting for that. As far as for the police department itself, I've noticed that the red light cameras for last year, quite a few months, they increased rather than decreased, which means something's happening. Why are they not stopping for red lights? I don't know. On page 157, one of the questions I asked was, where was the police revenue spreadsheet? Because it wasn't last year's, and it's not. And the answer was, I'll tell you at the work session. So where is the police revenue spreadsheet?
It's not in our section of the budget. It's in the general revenue section.
General revenue. Okay, I'll look for there. I was very honored to be with Chief Craze and City Manager Mike McLaughlin when we first went for Kalia. And we went to Phoenix, Arizona, or someplace like that to actually do the first attempt. So we were very honored, and we were very happy to have that. I thought that if you are Kalia accredited in some way, you could actually get more grants that way. Is that correct?
It's not part of any grant application.
Okay. But it certainly looks good on the cars. Also on page 155, line item 58, it says special programs, and I asked in the past, what was a special program expenses for? And it said, well, it was for CERT, CART, and so forth and so on. And yet, is that where the money that we give the grants to CERT and CART, is that where it's reported and not in the other place? Because the other place is also listed.
I thought it was just in this portion of the budget, but we can look into that.
Yeah, it seems to be listed two different places. You know, where the recognition and contribution groups, there also is a place there for CERT and CART and ACE and so forth and so on. But yet there's also this line item here, so I'm not so sure if it's a double entry.
I'll have to check.
Oh, so it's not CERT and CART. So I was given the wrong information last year. Okay. And there's no one here for CERT and CART tonight, right?
No, she's not here. She could
Do
be.
we have any idea of how many people are members of CERT and CART?
I have the report available for you. Did you get it when you came in?
I got the report, but it doesn't give the number of people.
Okay.
Oh, you have yeah, I have the.
I'd have to ask, but I don't see it.
Okay. All right. I'm not saying about the grant number, the number of people that are actually members of CERT and CART.
I'll have to check.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Hey, are there some other questions from the public? Anybody online? Yeah, I got some members.
Sounds like maybe we have some animal control questions.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and move to animal management control.
Animal services.
And services, oh, yeah.
There you go.
So the one thing that jumping real quickly into animal services and the budget pretty much is our personnel costs increased slightly, and that's due to excuse me, pay increases for the staff the usual cost of living and merit increases.
Apologize.
Just going to note that it does say animal control in the
It
budget
does.
book. So if we need to change it to animal services, we need to change it.
I just said that too.
Yeah, so everything is fully funded. It does not include any increases for any operational changes, and it's about a 2.5% increase in staffing costs for next fiscal year. One of the things that we were able to be very successful in this year was maintaining full staffing for the first time in many fiscal years. We've had a full complement of 3 employees, led by Patricia in the back there, for the year, and Carolina and Isabella are not here with us tonight, but they had to take care of the animals earlier. So I know some of the questions that have come up, kind of how does the operation work? It's a full service shelter that we operate from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And that's when staff are there to care for the animals that come in and out. Patricia puts together a really good weekly report that you guys, council has access to each week. You see how many animals are in there. It's pretty full right now. We had a number of animals surrendered recently, so they stay very busy with just taking care of the shelter itself. It's pretty much straightforward budget like we've had every year. It covers all the operating costs. Shelter had a number of work done to it last year. We spent ARPA dollars to improve the facility, and so it got a fresh coat of paint, some new flooring, and a few other things, HVAC. So shelter's in pretty good shape as a building.
A couple of questions. One, just coming back to the shelter itself, it was with the ARPA dollars, we were looking at the possibility of doing a new trailer, just actually redoing the building. Just wasn't feasible. So is that something that we placed in the capital project budget, something to look at over the next 5 years, maybe?
We have not included any funds in capital to replace the shelter itself. After the facility was put up 20 plus years ago, a series of trailers. The buildings have probably outlived any reasonable life expectancy, but Public Works has done a good job of repairing those facilities, and we expect to continue to use the existing structures as is. We did have some looking at different facilities, and the costs continued to spiral every time we looked at an option with whether it was to have a prefab building or have something built. I'm no construction expert, but those numbers kept going up because of all of the costs that come with them. And so you have to make a decision. Our facility is small. It's intended to be that way. We have limited capacity. And then we rely on the county for kind of backup and overflow and support. We would not have an ability to run a bigger facility, not with 3 staff members, right? That's just not practical.
Yeah, I understand. It just seems like long-term thinking that, we are going to have to do something eventually. So in our longer unfunded capital budget, we should probably have a line item for that, maybe over the next 8, 10 years.
Sounds like you're getting a new animal shelter.
I think it would be good with a new police station.
We can make it a whole public
Yeah.
safety.
Councilmember Pope.
Thank you. So, what are the public hours? So, but when are the residents able to come to the shelter? Because I think that's a question that I constantly been asked. Because I know you said we're open at staff is there from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. What time we're actually are we open to the public?
So we're not actually open to the public. We're only open by appointment. Typically, those appointments need to be scheduled in. Those appointments revolve around the services they need. We're not open to the public for them to just come in and walk through and pet the animals. We just don't have staffing to man that. It works well for the appointments. Yeah.
How many dogs do we currently have?
We currently have 4 dogs.
The little white one from yesterday still there?
Yes.
How many cats do you have?
13.
Do we still have any grants available for the TNR?
Our TNR grant started January 1st of this year and will run until December 31st. If we need an extension, they will extend it till March 31st. And I know there was a question about the dog park. Somebody wrote that tonight. So I know there's not many dog park applications out there, right? Correct. So, and it was intended that we have them annually reviewed and annual renewals to do the shot records and stuff. So as that happens, I mean, to renew it actually, since I started working here, I've seen the amount or the number of permits have gone down. I think a lot of people who are using the dog park don't actually have permits. We don't have a way to monitor that. Yeah. So it really doesn't do any, it's no use.
Okay, thank you. I actually asked the question about user fees. I think people care about their pets. So when it comes to vaccination, microchipping, TNR services, people may not be that price sensitive. So are we actually trying to recover our cost with these different services? And do you think, points of $1 or $2 one way or the other really makes a difference one way or the other?
Which services are you referring to?
Well, microchipping, some of the vaccinations, even TNR.
So most of those are, the TNR is all grant funded. And so those are grant funds, and the microchipping is another grant funded? No?
No, we do offer low-cost microchipping to the public. It's $10 per pet. We have advertised it on our social media. We just don't have a lot of people who are interested in it. Yeah, as far as vaccinations go, we can't actually offer vaccinations because we're not a vet. In order to do a low-cost rabies clinic, we would need a vet on board who'd be willing to do that at no cost.
Now, someone posted a picture of a really cute puppy. The puppy was named Emmett, apparently. Someone had suggested I should. So now, if I could do that, and I can't really do that right now, but if I could, how much would it cost me to adopt a cat?
For you, we'll waive it. We'll waive the fees for you.
The second one's for
We
you.
can house all these animals tonight if someone takes one home right now.
But typically, what's the
Cat
cost?
adoption is $100. Dog adoption is $150. That covers the spay, the neuter, the vaccination, the microchipping, and just the care that we have to give them to feed them and house them.
Yeah. And sort of the flip side about the user fee question is in the past, we had some days, a week or a few days, when we actually waived those fees because we had a lot of really, really cute, adorable puppies and cats, and we really needed to get adopted somehow. So do we have a plan for a couple of days in the year where we might waive fees?
We do not. And we do not because we kind of feel like if you're offering out a free animal, we're not going to find that responsible pet owner. That responsible pet owner is going to be willing to pay that small amount. If they're unable to afford that small fee to adopt, are they really going to be able to afford to care for the animal in the future?
No.
We do charge an owner surrender fee. However, we do have a lot of people who are surrendering because they can't afford to take care of their animals.
Yeah.
So we have waived fees there.
Councilmember Poppin.
We've talked about this before, but some of our neighboring municipalities, I know in College Park and Berwyn Heights, they've installed microchip readers, public microchip readers, so the public come up and, they find a cat, they want to know whose cat is this. There's this beautiful Bengal cat wandering through all the greenbelt, and they could bring it and scan it. Have we considered having one of those installed?
We're going to be installing 2 of them, one at Trump Hills and one over at Buddy Attic Lake. We do have all of the required equipment. We're just working on the signage.
Great, very exciting. We've got residents really excited that they can participate in the United There's a lot to hear that. That's great.
We plan to outdo College Park. They have one station. We'll have 2.
We have 2. We're going to reunite double the pets.
No.
And that activity with Senator Washington seemed very popular, well attended. So what's the plan this year? Will we aside from the senator, will be doing a couple of adoption fairs or festivals this year?
Not that I'm aware of. It's not something that I've heard anything about planning, or have known what to discuss. I think that it does take funding to do stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. It's easier for us to attend other people's events.
Okay, Councilman Fritz.
So I'm navigating the website, and it says if I want to see the adoptable pets, to go to Pet Finder, powered by Purina. So, and then I kind of navigate to the link provided, and then it says there's a bunch of animals in Greenbelt, not just like the 4 dogs you referenced. So, is there a way for me to make sure that I'm adopting from Greenbelt? Because, you know, I'm not going to let College Park off the hook. I pay taxes to this city, so I want to help control the population here. So, just from a very superficial look, I can't seem to navigate that way. It says that there's a lot it says there's a lot 0 miles away in Greenbelt. So, does the app let us just see the Greenbelt specific animals, or no?
No. So Pet Finder is a national website. Our Pet Point program that we use in the shelter, when an animal is made available, it pops up onto Pet Finder. Pet Finder will bring up any rescue in the city of Greenbelt or within the mileage that you put in. So when you click on an animal you think you're interested in, if you scroll to the bottom of the profile, it tells you where they're located. Got it.
Councilman Fritz, that puppy named Emmett, I don't know if he's
Good luck.
There's none of that white one. Marguerite's Wood Terrace. No one has called yet. There was no microchip.
I think Councilmember Niesel, do you want that puppy named
I
Emmett?
do not want another puppy. No, thank you. I haven't even managed to get a dog park permit for my one existing dog because it was a little bit of a convoluted process. So this is also about 4 years ago, and I'm not sure if things have changed. And before I do any of that, I want to ask you a question, which is there a problem that you have noticed from an animal services side with unfunded dogs using the dog park?
We've responded to a couple of fight cases where it was dog on dog. That half the party has a permit, the other half does not. They don't even live within the city usually. So we have no way to follow up with that other half other than contacting county.
I wonder if, and this is very spur of the moment, so I'm not expecting you to respond, but perhaps something that you could think about if it could have utility in the city is streamlining the process so that it's not so arduous to get the permit, because right now you have to like go to College Park to get it registered with the county, and then you come back to Greenbelt, and that takes up so much time from your officers as well to work with the person back in Greenbelt. So could we do anything to make it a more streamlined process for just getting that very basic information from a pet owner in Greenbelt, just so we have contact information and dog name for a bite case? I guess I'm just wondering, we can meet people where they are easier so that we have more data, but that is something just to consider. Sorry.
Thank you. Councilmember McKinney, did you comment? Councilmember Pope, you had another
I
comment?
just wondered, like, let's just get the white dogs, because I'm sure some of these dogs, they've still lost here in this, like the park area. Unless like they missing a dog. Usually if it's Franklin Park Complex, the management or staffing, they will blast an email out to all their people, but usually like the little white dog, that just came in from a citizen who was driving through. So we don't typically contact the management office for that. We just put it out on social media. Yeah, I'm just that I so part of the problem with when the citizens brings the dog into us is we're not guaranteed that it's actually up this area. Yeah. Yeah, I was a dog.
And finally, so if someone, if there's an animal that is injured or something happens, a dog running, a cat running loose over the weekend, it's the county that has to respond. We don't have the capacity to respond.
Depending upon the nature of the call, the county animal control will come out, or we'll send a police officer out, depending upon the nature of the call. If it's something that a police officer can handle, like a stray dog that they can pick up and take back to the shelter, we have a facility. We have a kennel outside the officers can put a dog into. Again, it depends on the nature of the call itself, and we just tell residents just to call a non-emergency number, let the dispatcher get their information, determine whether it's something an officer can handle or it needs to go to animal control.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for the work that you're doing with we do have a question here. Jay Davis.
Are they doing the
That's you.
All right, I only have 3 minutes, so I'm going to do this real fast. On page 159, there was a very huge number for overtime. Is that because you were short-staffed and you had to get temporary people in, or what?
When I hired every
All right, but the overtime is for staff, not for volunteers.
Right.
Okay. And I noticed that the insurance went down.
The insurance numbers they don't come in from, those insurance numbers either come from human resources or finance and put into our budget.
Okay. You have 2 feral cat colonies?
There are multiple feral cat colonies.
You have many. Okay, because it used to be just 2 or 3, and now there's many. All right. Adoptions went down. Is that because you had fewer animals, or?
The facility was closed for a portion of the year and didn't reopen until later, and then we had less animals.
Okay. And then you mentioned about the TNR grant that you just received, but you don't predict anybody being any cat being neutered or spayed during next year.
So we don't do the trapping. We have an outside entity that does the trapping. We provide the funding through the grant to cover the cost of the procedure. So basically, it's a voucher type program. The outside entity captures the cats for us. Somebody calls in, we make the referral. They capture the cat. They take it to the spay and neuter place. We cover the cost of that through the grant, and then the volunteer organization returns the cat.
Okay. And that's a person that used to be one of our city employees, I believe. There's an outside person that you call in. Yeah. So it's great that she's doing that. Yeah, because that's a lot of work trying to keep up with all those little critters. Yeah, but thank you anyway. Thank you.
I wanted to wait till the end. I guess we're near the end because it isn't a budget question. But Chief, I want to thank you for the Greenbelt Guardian program that was instituted. You know about that?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Some time ago, I had called in and talked with your dispatcher because a person I knew with dementia was wandering around. The person usually had a companion with them, but they were wandering around. I saw them through the window of the co-op, and I tried to get out as quickly as possible because it looked like they were just unaccompanied. But I spoke with your dispatcher many times, and they were trying to help, find the person and see if there was a need for assistance. And I just want to thank you for the program. Because of the time, I asked if there was a program, a sign up for people to opt into the program for it, and I was told there wasn't. I think I mentioned it at a council meeting or work session. I can't remember myself because my own memory is going. But I really want to thank you for setting that up. I think it's really critical that we have that, and I hope that people take advantage of it. And I want to thank you for setting up that program.
So on that note, I think we need to move on to another topic. Chief Praise and to the entire rank and file.
You went back in time.
I did. Chief Bowers and to all the management, rank and file. Thank you for all you do for the city of Greendale. Really appreciate it. Like one really quick question for the on CART and the CERT budget. Did they actually give us a report on what they spent the money on?
Yeah, it was in the
So,
packet.
I didn't even get a chance to look at that.
Yeah, there are two memos submitted by Dr. Kressler, one for CERT and one for CART, each with a request of $1,500 for their budget.
Right. Did they tell us how they spent the money last year?
It is detailed in here what their plans are for the next fiscal year's funds. They plan to replace for CERT. They have reusable inventory that needs to be replaced. Remember, we did purchase a new trailer for them. And so they need to outfit and supply that trailer with items. And so that's part of their purchase, including pop-up canopies and other items that need to be replaced that are reusable for that setup. And then for the CART budget, she is again requesting to purchase storage containers to store their equipment, additional branded pop-up canopy, and replacing expired first aid materials. And again, she's requesting $1,500 for that program.
Okay, I saw that. Councilmember Pope, I was just
Yeah,
wondering if
I
she
have-
actually listed what she spent the money on.
Yeah, I have the numbers on the membership for you. So probably about 15 in CERT and about 12 in CART. And they're trying to plan to do a membership drive. Yeah. And you're welcome.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Okay, hey, at this time we need to pivot to a discussion on the charter amendment resolution around collective bargaining expansion that came up at the council meeting on Monday. And I'm going to hand Councilmember Pompey, would you like to elaborate on this discussion?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much. So I asked that we have a discussion about this because the charter amendment that was supposed to be introduced was changed before council, just a couple hours before council meeting, there was new language inserted. Council did not have a chance to discuss this. This is, we had actually, so this makes the second time this charter amendment has been delayed because the first time we delayed the charter amendment was because it was not, it was legally inaccurate, it was not prepared correctly, I guess, the language that we needed was not correct. So this was supposed to be coming back to us the second time with that corrected language. I think it had to do with how things were capitalized, but it is what it is. So we were supposed to come back to us on Monday, and when it came back, there was new language. There was new language. There was a last-minute memo from the lawyer about this new language, and I was not willing to introduce an amendment with language that I think alters what we had agreed on previously without having a discussion at council. So that is why I asked us to have this discussion here tonight.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So I had spoken with the city manager briefly with the same questions before the meeting, and I'll allow you, City Manager Salmarone, to kind of discuss the modifications. I believe they were legal language in terms of the definition that was presented. You had suggested some modifications. So if you want to describe the changes. And what we did at the meeting is we tabled the action on the resolution that was presented. We tabled that. So please, Mr. Summerall, can you kind of explain the modifications?
I believe our labor legal counsel itemized or gave the justification why that change in the memo. I think you're asking me for a legal explanation of the changes. I would encourage counsel that we schedule a time with the legal counsel, labor legal counsel, to talk whether you get these or any legal issues with the language.
Well, I was hoping you could kind of share an overview, not word for word, but new modifications, there was definition 2 or 3 parts of what was changed, 2 or 3 reasons why things were changed.
The changes are really straightforward in terms of what the language changes are. So in the packet, in the updated packet, the language addition went from adding add non-exempt, non-managerial, and non-confidential employees. That was the initial proposal, and that's what you saw in the packet on Friday. Even that resolution on Friday still had some mistakes that needed to be corrected, and we corrected that. If you compare to what's in today's packet versus what's on Friday, you can see some of those grammatical and other errors and mistakes. However, going back to the substantive changes, the language is changing from adding and non-exempt, non-managerial, and non-confidential employees to and designated representatives of non-exempt and non-managerial city employees in all other city departments except for employees in the offices of the city manager and the city treasurer. The substantive change is replacing non-confidential employees for specifically employees in the city manager's office and the city treasurer office. In speaking with council and my conversation with legal, we had concerns about these employees across the organization that have access to sensitive information, non-public information, information that isn't available to union members, particularly union members who are involved in negotiations. So it was important to keep a distinction between the management team and those part of the management team and involved in negotiations. Those individuals separate from the labor groups that are collective bargaining. The non-confidential employees, the concern we had, that I had, and some of my team members had, is that nowhere in the city code or city charter we make a distinction of what are confidential things within the organization. I know that I'm aware that the National Labor Board has its destination of confidential employees. We thought that this would actually, the change created a more broader approach to collective bargaining because it says everyone except employees in the city manager's office and the city treasurer, which all have access to sensitive and confidential information, will be eligible for collective bargaining. So this confidential employees, looking at the National Labor Board, it would be confidential employees across the organization. So the chief has left. The chief has administrative staff that directly handle material for the chief and the deputy chief. Likewise, Mr. Varda in recreations. Likewise for Mr. Finn and public works. Now the confidential employees will be limited to city manager's office and at least in the second version. Now you have both versions. Again, I wanna make the both legal counsel and myself said if you have questions on the legal language, both Mr. Silvestri and Mr. Taylor are available to work with counsel through the language. And I encourage you to utilize their service.
Mayor Pro Tem?
And I guess I think you actually sort of answered part of my question there, thinking about the possibility of confidential employees in other departments. But so the thinking is that there wouldn't be, that there aren't likely to be people in other departments besides the managers we know are excluded, but other people in other departments that would have access to the kind of information that would make them a confidential employee, or that would have access to that for the purposes of union bargaining would make them I mean, they might have access to sensitive information, but maybe not. Is that sort of what you're thinking in terms of defining it for city management and city treasurer rather than just broadly speaking? I guess not explaining myself very clearly. I guess my question is,
I think
why would not just leave it as non-confidential employees and then make sure when we write the code, we specify who is a confidential employee and who is not? Thinking that there could be somebody who falls under that non-confidential or that confidential employee in another department. And alternatively, could there be somebody in the city and maybe not right now, but could there be somebody in the city manager or the city treasurer's office at some point who does not qualify as a confidential employee based on what their role is in the city manager's office, for example?
I can foresee roles that could be created that have such a narrow function that they are not dealing with any material. Currently, we don't have that. There's employees. The city treasurer office, we have done a lot of work to do cross training among the three members of that team. So the ideal environment is everyone knows payroll and can process payroll. So if a payroll person, for some reason, is not in, we need to get payroll out the door, right? So there's cross training for payroll functions, and so that payroll function, you're seeing all of the personnel data. In the city managers, yes, there could be positions that have very limited scope. I think currently we know that only that my office,
Right.
the two clerks, grants coordinator, and constituent clerks.
But, I do think that there's a need to better define this confidential employee term, because, I don't think that, the National Labor Relations Board, this is something they defined in the 40s or the 50s in the private sector. Maybe the Supreme Court reaffirmed it at some point. But, their definition may not really fit municipal government very well. Mr. Fritz, Councilman?
Thank you. So if I'm looking at the organizational chart on page 103 and on page 102, it talks about 26 FTEs in general government. Does the amendment as you're presenting right now include information technology, community promotion, economic development?
You have, it would include some of those, but let's look at.
So it wouldn't, so not all of them would be included.
Right, so 140 finance is the treasurer's office.
Yeah.
IT technology deals with sensitive information, but the community promotion, the PIO, is a managerial personnel, so they wouldn't be eligible. It would be managerial, but the person beneath that, the communication specialist and the media production, they would be eligible.
But to the member of the public who's looking at this org chart, it might read, these are the people who report to the city manager. So are they all exempt, right? Is the entire IT suite exempt? I don't know if this is actually clarifying because the way our government is structured. I think it lends itself, it could be more confusion. Is the deputy city clerk exempt? I'm looking because if you look at the positions that are listed here, if we're putting in the charter, it takes away a lot of our leeway to kind of make those tweaks for people. Well, this person actually wants to be in there. They don't consider themselves a management person, and they want to have, a just cause employment standard represented by a union. They want that kind of representation, and they want to pay dues to get that representation. I think that the language itself would have been better. I agree with colleagues. It would have been better defined under the auspices of non-confidential, and we could take the NLRB definition. We could take the definition that Montgomery County government uses as an enterprise of 8,000 people that do roughly analogous things. We could look at the public sector contracts with Prince George's County. There's a lot of large entities in the area. We can look at DC government. There's plenty of different definitions we can use and figure out what we want. But adding to the charter, the city manager's office and the treasurer's office, which isn't even how this is presented on the org chart doesn't really give that one-to-one. So I think the especially at the timing of the amendment, I think it adds more confusion than if we had pursued this deliberatively through the code.
And let me just comment, we're at 9:30, so I think we need to talk about this a little bit more. I don't know how much longer. Since it's a work session, we can't really vote to extend the meeting. But Councilmember Pompey.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Mr. Fritz mentioned that there's lots of definitions of what a confidential employee, and just so people know, the National Labor Relations Board, they define a confidential employee as an employee who acts in a confidential capacity with respect to management personnel involved in labor management relations. That's very narrow. It's very narrow what they consider a confidential employee. And I think, rather than having such narrow language in the charter, it is much better. And I think it behooves the city to actually have it be less narrow. And then when it is time to bargain contracts, like part of bargaining a contract is figuring out who is in the unit. Like this is something that you would talk about at that time, right? Well, who's management, who's not management, who is confidential based on, what their job functions are. We don't need to be so narrow in the charter because it's also something that can change. Like new employees can be added, right? And new positions can be added. So I think that it's better to be broad and then you narrow when you actually get to the point of negotiation. And that was the intent of council. I think when we, one of the reasons that we sent this back the very first time that we received this from our lawyer was because it was too narrow, because people were being left out, if you'll recall, right? So that's why we ended up passing the Public Works Amendment only and not the one to cover our employees, because we felt as a council that it was too narrow, that our lawyers had not our request to make it more broad. So I think, we should let as many people have access to bargaining as we can, and then, you sort of work it out at the table who is a covered employee and who is not. So that's what I'm telling you. Also, I just want to add that I think that it's always inappropriate for council to receive memos from our lawyer 2 hours before the meeting, to receive an altered charter amendment 2 hours before the meeting. This is not the way we should be working. I do not have time to review new materials 2 hours before the meeting. I review my materials, the weekend before, because that's when I have time to do it. I cannot all of a sudden read a new charter amendment, read a new memo, and digest that and decide how I feel right before a meeting. So I really need us to have a better process when changes like this happen.
Yeah, that's understandable. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, because I actually had not looked up the org chart now, but if you look at that org chart, it either includes everybody, even the production assistant in the city manager's office, or it only includes the city manager's office and not human resources. Because if you look at the titles, there's the city manager's office, then finance are two separate columns, and then human resources, IT, and public information. So I think it's not getting at what you were trying to get at either. So I think we can figure out how to define what is a confidential employee either in the code or some combination of code and negotiations. And that also leaves the possibility of, if new positions are added in the city manager's office that aren't confidential, they fit there. But I think the new language of the charter amendment doesn't do what you want it to do, despite what the lawyer's memo says.
Councilmember Pope.
Yeah, I just think we're smaller organizations, and I think we have to probably tailor it to us. And we have small offices, even the city manager's office. If you have 3 people who are considered confidential, then, there's the fourth person is going to be privy to some of this information as well, because we're just having a smaller organization, smaller offices, smaller workspaces. So I also think that we have, we need to, we're all in favor of this union deal for the Public Works Department, but I also think we have, we need to watch out for our organization too. And I didn't think that these changes were so broad or so different than we had discussed previously when we were talking with our lawyers.
Council update, if you have some thoughts on it.
Yes, I agree with what I feel is the majority of council that the original language that is not so detailed is actually more beneficial to us in this process right now, and that I am equally frustrated with the unsuccessful back and forth, I will call it, that we've had with this particular solicitor.
Councilman Kitty?
Yeah, I mean, I agree on the back and forth. I tend to lean to try to have a little bit more definition than to have it too broad. I guess I'm just thinking about down the line, like, does that open up the need for negotiation, which then takes more time, which takes more resources, which takes more effort. So I just don't know if there's an in-between of how do we still keep it broad enough so that we're not excluding people, but then we are also making it specific enough so that we don't have to do the swirl, the negotiation.
Yeah. Thank you. And I will just say that I think the NLRB's definition, I think that we need to look at public sector, more recent public sector definitions rather than defaulting back to what NLRB came up with in the 50s and 60s. Councilman, but
Yeah. I think that, I understand why we would want to not, go down an endless, infinite regression of, bargaining unit debates. I think at the end of the day, the authority to do this is coming from us. It's not being imposed on us by the state. We're not being, we're kind of doing this from scratch. We're writing this and we're contemplating this. So ultimately, we will vote on the ultimate composition, and we can also vote to restructure the ultimate composition. We could combine the bargaining units, we could separate the bargaining units, we could eliminate the bargaining units because there's no Maryland law that's regulating this. I think we're operating in a vacuum. And because we operate in a vacuum, that's part of where I think the consternation is coming from, is we don't have that kind of guidance. That one, once again, as I'll keep banging this drum, if the state of Maryland had passed a universal policy years ago, which they could have done because they've done it ad hoc, bit by bit, for every bargaining unit under the sun, right? Just this year, Annapolis passed legislation for graduate students, but not all graduate students, only graduate students at 2 of the universities, and not if you're grant funded. So the rest of the workers will have to come back and fight for their right to bargain again. If we just had one standard, like many states do, we wouldn't be having this debate. So we're kind of, we've been put in this position. But I think as long as that is the regulatory environment, we're going to determine what the bargaining units are. So I'm not as worried about the definitional conflict because the way it would be appealed to us, if it's going to be appealed to anyone currently, because there's no other body that is handling these kinds of issues. There's no state public employee relations board that would cover these kinds of things. I think there should be, but until there is, I'm not as worried about that.
yeah, I would agree strongly with that. I think the state does need to come up with a unified, comprehensive definition of bargaining units. Just something, individual municipalities should not be going through this exercise coming up with things. So I think we should make it as not our legislative priorities next year. But as far as tonight, right now, I think it's a problem with the changes coming to us down to just a few hours. It's a problem. So what now? We've had the discussion. We have a meeting coming up on the 11th, I believe. So is this something council and the city manager can kind of work? Another question that I have is we're working with our labor attorney, but shouldn't our general attorney also be eyeballing this to make sure that it cuts mustard?
Yes, and that's why we've had to pull one resolution because it didn't meet muster. So our solicitor, our city solicitor, whose expertise is administrative law, reviewed it and found that it lacked some legal sufficiency, and so reworked the entire resolution. So the labor attorney is they're labor attorneys. So that's their specialty. So now I've got both law firms and 3 lawyers on one email to make sure that everyone's seeing the same thing.
Right. And the clock in the cash register is running on that too. This process
15-minute
is expensive.
15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
That 15-minute increment.
Let's see, we've got a comment. Mr. Orleans, please.
Thank you. I can appreciate members of council feeling aggrieved by the presentation of this memo 2 hours before Monday night's meeting. I might suggest that that memo, once provided to council, should also have been provided to the public, whether it was 2 hours or whenever after the fact. It should still be provided to the public. Part of my problem is the prefix non in front of the word exempt. In my experience, employees exempted from the bargaining unit are not non-exempted. They're exempted who are managers, but not all managers. Managers who have the capacity, the intent, the facility to hire and or fire, they're exempted. But working managers, working foremen, and certainly in the Public Works Department, I presume, I don't know, but I presume there are working foremen on crews that go out directing to pick up this pile or do that piece of labor over here. So they would not be exempted. So they're managers, but they're not managers who have the capacity to hire and fire. They should not be exempted from the bargaining unit. I certainly agree that some of this discussion will occur at such time council amends the charter and the code is written and collective bargaining begins. But up front, as it says managerial or non-managerial, it's not all managers. That's yet to be determined. And the same with confidential employees. Some confidential employees have access to privileged information, but they can't do anything with it. They're just secretaries in an office responding to a direction from a manager in the office.
Thank you, Mr. Orleans.
So
with the time limit.
Exempted employees might be some managers and some confidential employees, not all.
Okay. So here we are with half the discussion. Councilmember Parker, want to have the discussion.
Yeah, I mean, we have to decide which amendment we're going to be putting forward, or which I'm not going to be putting forward on Monday. And so I don't know if we just vote on that and then we vote.
I think that's one way of doing it. I don't think that really will reconcile the two. I mean, just voting for one or the other. And the next meeting is on 11th, ever. So we have a little bit of time between now and then. Would you like to work on reconciling these two, the council member, or do you think it should just be one or the other?
I think you're looking at one or the other. I don't think we need to reconcile the differences between the two. The one with the non-confidential employee language is what, maybe 10 words? Like that's the simplest.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So all I'm saying is council, as individuals, has an opportunity between now and the 11th to suggest other modifications or other definitions. But for right now, we can Councilmember Poggi from both and vote on one or the other.
That's one way of doing it.
Unless there's additional feedback or input from legal counsel.
Both resolutions can be included in the packet, and you can choose to move one over the other, whichever one. Okay. The issue I would see is the title. Each resolution has a slightly different title. And so we would have to either word that agenda item so discreetly or have two separate agenda items. Then you move on one and don't move on the other. Does that make sense?
The other caveat is at the meeting, the motion was to table the resolution that was about to be introduced. That's what the agenda said. So we tabled that. So we'll have to come back and either pull that and vote on a different one. But either way, it'll be resolution for first introduction, first reading.
So you could do that following Robert's rules that if you table it, it comes back to the next meeting. So that's the first item listed at the next meeting. And so
that's Robert's rules. So it's not necessary.
yeah, but I can run it by legal. I think we can work through what makes sense. Legal.
Can I make a suggestion? Yeah, thank you so much. So we do have to table this, so it does have to come back on Monday, but I would like to, my suggestion would be that we pull this on Monday, that we read the original first resolution, the first one that wasn't amended, that we read that into the record. And then on second reading, should someone wish to amend it, adding this language that was added by our lawyer, that we can vote to do that at the second reading if someone would like to do that. That would be my suggestion, because I feel like that will give us the opportunity to do that. And I would feel comfortable with that because I feel like, it would be the original resolution that we all had agreed to. It's first reader, and then on second reader, people have the ability to offer that amendment should they want to, and then we can vote to accept the amendment, vote to not accept the amendment. I feel like that is the cleanest and best way to move forward, and that is in that way, all of council can be on the record for how they feel about whichever way.
Yeah. Well, it's certainly the simplest way. It's just that my concern is that what has been suggested would be a substantial change from the first to the second.
Right.
So I think that it would have to be reintroduced again.
Yes, if
first.
council were to approve the change at the second reading, yes, then it would be read in.
I one note on the resolution that was distributed on Friday. If you look at that packet, there's an error with the title, and the language within the resolution indicates that there are two offices in the legislative branch. So there's the office of the mayor and the office of council. So we had to make those edits. So those edits will need to come up, and that was an oversight from the clerk and our solicitor.
Okay. I think that's fine. Okay. Any other comments from that?
I want to share my feel.
Yeah, that's fine. And so when we get the one that says non-exempt, non-managerial, and non-confidential city employees, the simpler version with the corrections that needed to be made otherwise.
And we're
Put that in for
authorizing those
first
changes.
reading on the 11th. And then when we bring it for second reading, if somebody wants to propose an amendment to the language, we vote on that, and that may trigger it restoring the first reading, but that's okay.
But I feel like that's a better way for us to move forward on.
Okay, and the issue about us tabling what was on the agenda, the amended one from Friday, do we need to bring that up and have voted down?
Unless
first reading.
Unless we tabled it to a specific time, we need to take affirmative action to put it on a future agenda.
I tabled it until the May 11th meeting, very specific.
So we just think that that
You can go ahead.
correct.
Yes.
During the meeting.
Yeah, and we'll just double check that to make sure that's what happened.
Yeah, so you will have two entries in that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Hey, well,
Is there anything to say?
yeah.
It's just a really brief information item. I have been taking a look at the budget, and I'm going to be sending to council some thoughts and recommendations around how we continue to advance some of the cultural and DEI initiatives that were recommendations of the JEDI study, while balancing the budget constraints that we have. So I've been thinking about it. I just didn't want it to be a surprise when I put it over.
So I'm going to set something over to council to hopefully have a discussion item on the agenda for May 11th. And I'll make sure to send that to council for,
Okay, will you send it over in the form, it's a draft?
yes, yep, the big draft. It will be discussion item, not necessarily a vote.
Oh, okay. Okay, any other information that needs to be shared, Mr. City Manager?
Just a reminder that Monday's work session is at 7 o'clock at Greenridge House.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. Let's go ahead and call it a night. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I'm not traveling.
7 o'clock and Greenwich.